Hi, my name is Gabrielle, and I'm going to talk about behavioral momentum in compliance techniques. So, why is compliant training important? It's the most persistent concerns for school professionals. It inhibits a child's participation, it strains relationship with other children, and it hinders academic engagement and performance in children with autism. So compliance is a dependent variable defined as initiation of requested action by the learner within 10 seconds of instruction and completion of request within 30 seconds of initiation. Non-compliance is going to be the opposite, so no initiation of the request action by the learner within 10 seconds of instruction or delivery, and incompletion of the request within 30 seconds after prompting. So compliance is part of a larger construct, so it can be part of defiance and or destructive behavior. So that's why researchers generally describe non-compliance in behavioral terms and divide interventions to reduce the rate or intensity of non-compliance into antecedent and consequent strategies. So how is it measured? It's measured using latency measures, so failure to initiate compliance within a demand in a timely manner, or duration measures, so failure to complete demand within a given time period. So what are the treatment and assessments being used to increase compliance in children? So errorless compliance, praise training, function-based interventions, behavioral intervention plans, but we'll see why behavioral momentum techniques, so called high probability request sequence and other names. So again, effective treatments, a systematic review was conducted and found that behavioral momentum techniques such as high probability instruction sequences can be considered as evidence-based practice to improve compliance in children. So another meta-analysis found that FBA-based intervention did not outperform studies that did not include a prior assessment, which is interesting because it's laborious, and also found that behavioral momentum techniques was rated high as potential evidence-based in school settings. So what are behavioral techniques? So you need at least 3 consecutive requests to which compliance is highly likely. So high probability request immediately to antecedent to low probability request has been used to establish behavioral momentum of compliance. So what are behavioral momentum techniques? So if the learner doesn't show increased compliance, additional high probability requests must be presented until the child complied with at least 1 high probability request. If the child did not comply with the 3rd high probability request in the sequence and ignored compliance. So low probability requests are defined as those that are complied with 25% or less time, and high probability requests are 75% or more of time. So behavioral momentum techniques reduce non-compliance in schools and at home, are used in children with ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, developmental disabilities, and so on. When to use it. So it's actually used to increase requests to initiate social behavior in children with severe social withdrawal and children who are non-compliant but don't have very high aggressive behaviors. It's an antecedent strategy. It prepares the child to respond positively and shows increased learning time for students in history of non-compliance. Assessments that informs this intervention. So a variety of interventions, but it's not based on assessment that could be considered to be evidence strategies to increase children compliance. This is supported by the meta-analysis. So you don't need to have an FBA to conduct this. Clinical workers, so you have to have a list of potential high probability and low probability instructions for descriptive analysis or observational assessment. So you need fixed time, 60-second schedule, and then you don't administer consequence or non-compliance during the assessment. So behavioral momentum is also used with fading techniques, so which is called errorless compliance training. So fading involves a systematic reduction in the number of high probability requests and increase in the latency between high and low probability requests. So it's adapted to the errorless approach. So there's a probability hierarchy, and the child is first exposed to high probability requests, and then the lower probability requests on the hierarchy are then slowly faded, and then the lower probability responses are gradually introduced until the child follows all requests at high probability. And then why should we use compliance training? errorless compliance training. Errorless compliance training, pros is the benefit of allowing the training to occur without initial exposure to high demand situations that may produce high rates of disruptive behavior. Thank you very much.